Hey guys, I'm back. I've done a couple of ruling videos now because I love helping people with rulings and that, but I also love talking about strategy from a competitive perspective. Opus 3 has a lot of great new cards and brings in a lot of new interactions. Hopefully this gives you some ideas whether you're stuck or whether you just want to expand your horizons and play some different decks. I'll be popping up examples as I talk, this is a visual aid. I'll mostly assume you already vaguely know what the cards do, just so I can get straight to the point with each example. First thing I'll talk about though is cadets. They're one of the most popular decks out of the gate because the deck is pretty straightforward to build and play, and you just chuck in a bunch of cadets and you've got like a good deck. I just want to refine some of the ideas though. First thing, I think that Goldberg goes really well in the 3-color cadet deck, and I don't mean making like a Goldberg deck, I mean literally just chucking Goldbergs into your existing 3-color cadet deck. Because these 3 cadets are 3 of like the good ones, especially 7, and Goldbergs just give you so much value off of 1 card. It's such a threat. You can even play Amarant on color if you want to pop it. You don't have to, but like that's could be decent, especially because it also works with Ace. It gets him off the field to get your ad back, and then you can play another one or a different light card. You could even chuck in Onion Knight if he's playing Cosmos. You don't have to go that far though. And I just think there's a lot of potential there. Speaking of 7 is, in my opinion, the best cadet by far. It's like the reason the deck is good. Its unblockable effect is huge in that deck, but even its auto abilities, even action ability, special ability is even crazier. That effect is one of a kind. You like cancelling special abilities and auto abilities especially. That is something you can't do with like any other card. And it's very threatening. Even if you don't have one, your opponent still has to kind of play around as if you do a lot of the time. But because unfortunately there's only one different 7, so you only have 3 copies of it. But there's a lot of ways to actually get it back. Asura is a really good one because it's like a 1 cost, if you already have 7 on field, 1 cost instant speed, get another one back and cancel something, you can do that in response. Then you've got Phoenix to kind of bring one out if you're holding one in your hand, which is also instant speed, and Devout's like just an efficient, good value backup, which can also bring out your other off-color cadets that I mentioned before that you'd would normally bring out off Goldbergs. So there's a lot of stuff around 7 that can really threaten your opponent. The other card that makes cadets good is this card, Odin. This is contender for one of the best summons in the game. It's in its deck, it is crazy good. 4 cost remove anything is like nuts, and you can even add it back off REM, which is so good. I think the other removals summons in cadets, Diablos and Ifrit, I don't think they're good enough. Because you'll be playing purple already, so you're probably better off playing Odin 4 and Cyclops, which are both really good summons, and they're just better in general. I mean, you could play the other summons if you want, but yeah, in my opinion, they're not quite good enough to play. That's enough about cadets, though. Moving on to with red, we have Geku. Ninjas are not quite a fully formed archetype yet, I don't think. It's unfortunate that Izio is the only blue one, because he should be the best one to go out with Geku if there was like a good way to do it, because she also brings out another forward. But like Edge is really good too. Like Onion Knight gives you like a backup back and stuff. You're probably going into red-green if you're playing ninjas, just because of that's where most of the ninjas are, and Edge is kind of like a central point. But Geku's pretty good, you can get that out, and like he's got the buff effect, which you can use more than once, so it's a decent support. So there's definitely something there you can work with. Zac is probably the best generic fire card in the set, which makes sense because he's one of the legends. You always want to be grabbing Light Cloud off this. That is where you get the value. Being able to shoot a Light Cloud like that is really good. You can play Amarant on color to sack your Zac and get the cloud out yourself without relying on your opponent killing your Zac, which is pretty awesome. You could even go further and play red-purple with Angeal to then get Zac out, and Angeal's actually pretty good value himself. However, red-purple you don't have a way to remove like Yuna and Enuo, those kind of blanket removal effects, which are a threat to Zac. So I think red-yellow is probably an ideal combination, because you get Hecaton share, so you can remove the Yuna, and yellow also gives you some other 7 characters and things like that. It's actually, there's some cool stuff there, so definitely something worth looking into if you want to play fire for this set. Palom is really cool. Like, it's a blanket effect for that kind of effect, which you've only had with Summoner before, which is like a once-off and you have to break it back up for it. This having it as a blanket is awesome, so you get full value from cards like Mumba and Berisha. So Mumba becomes like a 2-cost kill something, and Berisha becomes wipe your opponent's board, which is awesome. With the Mumba thing, you can actually bring back Palom with Devout. So I should probably almost be talking about this in the ice section, not the fire section, but this is where Palom came up. So yeah, there's just some really cool stuff, and Palom just gives you a lot of reach with your fire spells, because, you know, some of them, you know, see always like one off, and it's especially the fact that it plays around Minwu is awesome, because Minwu is, you know, quite a threat to fire. This guy, Ferris, he's actually really good value. He's like a pseudo 3-cost 8k, which is above the vanilla line. Normally 3-cost is 7k, 8k is where you get drawback. But he gets an off-color summon. The obvious choice would be with red-blue, so because you get Lena for the buff and Sildrick, and you can cast it and stuff. But like, I don't think the Lena buff is that important with this card. I think the Searching the Sildra is what's important, and fortunately, Sildra is the only 6-cost summon. It's the only card you get full value off of these 2 summoners with. So I think actually a red-purple or red-yellow deck with Ferris would be really interesting, because you can search the Sildra and then cast it off-color. You don't actually need to be playing blue. Just some pretty cool stuff. Fact is, EX is actually a really good point too. Just the other fire cards. Rubicante is mono fire, basically. Really good in mono fire, not very good anywhere else, pretty much, other than Archfiends, obviously. Just thought I'd point that out if you're still want to play mono fire, even though it kind of didn't get that much. Rubicante is where you're going for. And Bard is really actually a good really good 2-cost backup even. It's like a mini Gipple basically, but your opponent can't get to it. Like you kind of play it early, it gives you some mana, and then later on you're just threatening that kind of push for game. You're playing like lots of little guys with cadet and things like that. That can be really game ending. So those are the other 2 cards in Fire. Unfortunately, Fire didn't really get that much this set, but yeah, I tried to find what I could that was decent. Moving on to Ice though. We've got a lot of new discard cards, and they're actually quite decent. Harley and Edward are actually really good value backups. Amina and Kuzis are really good value as well. Like, both the Harley and Amina are 2-cost that lower the cost of the other ones. And then we finally have a card that benefits you, like, strong benefits for getting rid of your opponent's hand. So normally the discard strategy is not that good, because just discarding your opponent's hand doesn't really give you as much advantage. It's just taking cards away from both players. But Sid Allstein is 5 for 9, kill something. That's crazy good value, so it really rewards you for taking those cards away. So yeah, there's just a lot more possibility within that archetype now. These cards I want to talk about because I feel like people are kind of undervaluing them a lot, especially Genesis. So Kuja is really good. Like Snow, as we know, is actually a really good ice forward in Opus 1, and that's just the fact that he does something when he attacks is awesome. But he's really weak, so he's really easy to play around. You just put like 2 things bigger than him and he can't really get through. Kuja, on the other hand, 7k is like much better, and the fact that you can dull and freeze, you can just keep locking things down. And it's this, like 3 for 7, that's the vanilla line. Like that is, there's no drawback for having that powerful effect. It's just like a constant threat. And Genesis is actually really good in my opinion. I think people are really underrating him. Like, Laguna has been played in a lot of ice decks since like the dawn of times, like a 4 for 7 that dulls something when it enters, or maybe freezes it if you have Squall. And like Genesis just does that, he doesn't need Squall, he just dulls and freezes something when he enters. I know he's not 9k, but his effect as well, like that's constant threat, like is one of the few forwards in the game with high impact enter ability and constant like impact like while he's on the field. Normally those high impact enter abilities come on like a vanilla body, or like, you know, just like a little effect or other. But yeah, the fact that he has both those threats is actually really good, and yeah, that there's more ways to kind of dull your opponent's field down now, so that discard effect actually will go through, even though he's only 7k. Speaking of those, Shiva and Cannoneer, people obviously in the sneak peek, people noticed how good Shiva was. You just like go for game, or like stop your opponent going for game, etc. It's a really cheap way to like turn off 2 forwards. And Cannoneer though, I feel this card's also quite overlooked. It's actually really good. Like, it's super duper good value. It's this kind of stuff, like dulling your opponent's field down is like, it's not fully explored yet, but like with new cards it definitely can be. And it's actually sometimes more powerful than breaking your opponent's field, because by dulling them, they're not there to block or attack with, but also they can't play those forwards, like more active forwards, because they've already got them on the field. So it can actually be more threatening, and that is really frustrating to play against. I think that Ice is going to be hugely more threatening this set, and you're going to have more things that kind of help against that, like Guy, or like green activating things, blue activating things. I think those are going to become a lot more valuable, because Ice can really lock you down then, with all the new cards. This combo has been talked about online quite a bit now. Genesis Avatar, there's a quick ruling thing, so I'll go back to rulings for a second. That text is wrong. It does not do what it says. What it actually does, and it's going to get an errata, is does damage to all your opponent's forwards equal to half of like each forward's power that it hits. So it will never actually kill anything by itself, it'll only do half. However, if you like pull it out, bring it back in with Time Mage, its enter ability triggers again, so that will do half and half. It'll kill all their forwards, which is, it looks expensive, but it's actually not really. It's actually pretty good value. It's you're playing 10 mana total with a 2-cost backup and getting a 9k on the board. That's like, I mean, Bahamut costs 9, you remove 2 things and you don't get a forward. This is really, and something that Ice did not have access to before. The fact that Ice now have like a potential board clear, that's a big deal and something to watch out for sure. It's definitely a kind of under the radar buff to Ice. So watch out for that. The only problem is that Genesis Avatar also has the same name as Genesis, but you can play around with that. Like, that's not actually that big of a disadvantage. The other problem is, though, this is weak to Minwoo, so obviously if your opponent's playing Minwoo, you don't have any outs to it, you probably don't want to have these cards lying around. Although 9k is pretty big anyway. But yeah. Moving on to Zezat. This is just the only Dawn Warriors I'm going to talk about, like, within the Dawn Warrior archetype. Kelga Zezat is a crazily good 2-card combo. It's even stronger than X-Death and Capricious Reaper, which was already, like, a game-winning turn 1 play. This is even better. You get a haste guy, so you get to do damage straight away as well, and also you have a First Strike Brave 9k, which is crazy. It's like 3 attacks every turn. It will block most things. That's like super duper threatening. They're even in the same color as X-Death and Capricious Reaper, so you could even play like a 2-card combo deck, and you have Alcid Onion Knight as well. Just a lot of really high value 2-card combos to watch out for. It's very, very good if it goes off. Just watch out for it. The dplan soldiers you might have seen in the sneak peek. I just wanted to mention these because they're actually, it turns ice into like a good standard unit kind of color now, because before it was like nothing. You would never play ice with standard units. But yeah, the fact, especially Refia, making this like a 1, 2, 3, like 6 mana for 3 forwards. That's heaps good. There's another good ice standard unit as well, as Mystic Knight in my opinion. It's actually pretty hard to kill for a 2 cost. So you're not restricted to the dplan soldiers, and obviously Warrior of Light is there as well. I didn't put it there because it's obvious when you're looking at Dark Blue standard unit support. But yeah, there's a cool archetype there for sure. The last thing in Ice, so this card Kun Mi is actually really good by itself. You don't need to combo it with anything, like you just play it in an Ice deck. But there are some pretty crazy like kind of locks you can do now with a lot of these kind of nope effects. So you know, if you have, like, say, all these out, for example, they're all in 2 colors as well. So this is like you could potentially have this in a deck without making a stupid deck. These are all good cards. So you can stop your opponent targeting things with summons, stop them targeting with backups, and then stop them activating action or special abilities. And then basically they're restricted to forwards with auto abilities, or yeah, that's basically it. And 7 can prevent that. So you've got a really cool kind of lockdown set of cards there, which is could be quite frustrating to play against. Moving on to the Wind Legendaries. No, I know they're not actually legendary, but they may as well be. These 2 cards are insanely good. These alone basically turn Wind from meh into like valuable second element. Like you almost want this in your deck. Dorgan would still be good even if he only broke the card, but he actually removes it, which makes him way better. Like, so not only is he instant speed spot removal on a body, it's also an answer to like problematic cards like Goldberg, obviously, the Emperor Zand, Renoa, new Prish Legendary, like so many Deleter Legendary as well. Dorgan's a really good out to that. So there's just so many like threats that Dorgan just says, nah, I don't care. Now Zidane is obviously crazy as well. Anyone who's played another card game with this kind of effect, like Confiscation, Thoughtseize, Eye of Kilrog, looking at your opponent's hand just by itself is a very strong effect. Choosing a card to take from their hand is incredibly strong effect. Those 2 effects on the same card is ridiculous. You get so much free information and wreck your opponent's strategy, especially dropping things like turn 1. That's a viable play, by the way, even though it costs 3. The fact that he gets a power buff when they've got like less cards in hand is just icing on the cake. I don't even know why he has that. It would still be good without that. But yeah, the information that you get from it especially is hugely valuable. So those 2 cards, you could play green in basically anything and just play these 2 with like Maria Aerith or whatever, and that's like a good engine. It's not even an engine, it's just good cards, but they're that good. This Berisha is really cool. Actually, I love Berisha, I love the Archfiends, but she's very good for a second Berisha. She works with the things that already work with the other Berisha, mainly Dancer. However, you got to watch out that any buffs on the forward will still be applying, so actually 1k might not be enough. So in that case, on colour, you've got things like Ishtola, which can ping up more than once to try and finish it off. You've got Balthier, who's like a solid green forward that can finish things off with Berisha. There's some other off-colour things. There's actually quite a few colours you can play with this if you want. You don't have to stick to green. You've got the Dark Knight that does 1000 to everything, and that's basically it. You've also got Mumba kind of works with that too. You've got the Ninja Purple, does 2k, which is better than 1k. Therian can do it multiple times, and green-red is like a pretty decent combination. We've got the Palom and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of things you can do with this new Berisha. I'm a huge fan of it. It's basically 4 for 7 with removal. Wheel is really, really cool new summon in green. Now, the key text there is that it has to send the forward to the break zone to do the second effect, which lets them play something. So if you don't let it go to the break zone, then you get free removal. 3-cost removal is even better than Type 0 Odin. So you got Yuna and Enuo to let that happen. So blue-green, which is already a good color combination. Purple-green, it's perfectly fine as well there. Then you've also got Zidane, who can look at their hand, take away a good forward, maybe check and see if they have no forwards, and then you can get it for free. Just that information is, once again, so useful with that. You can also go a bit off the wall and play the discard strategy with green ice. You can play Varn with Kazusa to constantly discard from your opponent's hand by replaying that Kazusa, especially when it only costs 1 from Amina. There's just some kind of cheeky stuff you can do there, and like obviously you got the Zidane again for the discard strategy. It's pretty cute kind of interactions there, which are worth exploring if you want. Oh, and now I just want to talk about the alternatives with REM. So obviously she's really good in cadets, but she's, unlike all the other cadets, she is any Type 0 card. Everything else in that archetype is to do with cadets, but REM is just a Type 0 card. So obviously it can be doesn't have to be a character, it doesn't have to be a cadet. So you can get Odin, which is, I've already talked about how good that is, but you can actually get like all those, not all of them, but some of the ice discard cards are Type 0, so you can get your Sid Allstein back for that kind of strategy, and then you got Amina and Kazusa and that kind of thing. You can even go more off the wall. There's a yellow card which is Type 0, which is the Black Tortoise Gilgamesh, which is a pretty decent forward. I'd consider trying it. It's got some pretty cool effects, but yeah, there's just some interesting stuff you can do with REM that you might not think about otherwise. The other cards in Wind, Sukanoa is the second card that is unblockable by 3 or higher, which is way better than unblockable by 4 or higher. If anyone's played against the common Yuffie, they'll understand that. It's actually quite threatening if you can't remove it. Unfortunately, he is very weak and easy to remove. But if you can't remove him, he's like a huge threat to your points, especially when they got a Yuffie there as well. Speaking of Yuffie though, there's another Yuffie, the 2-cost one, which costs 0 while you have Vincent, so she may as well actually be a an Earth card. You can chuck her in an Earth deck. Like, it doesn't even have to have green in it at all. You just have only Yuffie. Especially because Vincent's very good by himself, obviously. And you've got Jessie as well. So you can have Jessie to search Vincent or Yuffie, and you can like pair them together easily. You could just play one Yuffie if you want it. Just when you have the Jessie, but you already have a Vincent, don't need his special ability. Just grab a free 0 cost, and your Vincent becomes Brave, which is really good because you get to do the old Brave attack, use a special, or you just get like a strong Brave attacker. It can't be broken by stuff, so that's like definitely a good card in Earth for sure. And it's not part of the Wind thing, but yeah. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. That's the first 3 elements. I'll do the other 3 in Light and Dark in a second video because this went way longer than I expected. But yeah, I hope that gives you some ideas, some kind of stuff to work with. Thanks for watching. Cheers.